The Joe Rogan Experience.
To Klaus Schwab's, like, dad. Have you ever heard of New Schwabenland?
New Schwabenland.
You never heard of New Schwabenland?
No.
Have you ever heard of Operation High Jump?
I knew I was going to love this part. No.
Dude,
What's
it's
Operation
crazy.
High Jump? What does that mean?
Okay, so at one point, some people are like, what's going on with Antarctica? Have you heard of this? Where they sent Admiral Byrd up?
What's going on in Antarctica?
Yeah, so the U.S. government's like, something's going on with Antarctica. There's some activity up there. We want to find out what's going on. So they send this cat named Admiral Byrd up to investigate with a giant, just a fleet to go bang, bro. You know?
When was this?
I think this was in the when was Eisenhower in? Was it the
50s?
Yeah, it was
60s?
like right around just either around World War II or right after it. And so they sent Admiral Byrd up to go find out. And according to his journal that they found much later, he basically met with UFOs, Nazi UFOs.
What?
Yes,
Nazi UFOs.
the Nazis.
They're not like a flying saucer.
Had made a deal, basically, working with
What?
You've never heard this.
No.
The greatest story ever, bro. It's the greatest
So
story.
the Nazi made a deal with the aliens?
Yes.
Holy
For
shit.
technology, and they were going to work together, okay? I know this sounds crazy. So basically, the aliens go down, and Klaus Schwab's dad go down and meet with Eisenhower. It's going to be like, we could either do it one way or the other way. We can do it nice or we can do it the wrong way. And that's where they say Eisenhower made a deal with these aliens that they could kidnap people and do experiments, but they couldn't just do it anywhere. They had specific places, which were our national forest. Yeah, dude, you've never heard of this.
You're making this sound
No.
as if this is like a story that is commonplace.
Well, for me,
Help me out here. Have you heard the
Honestly,
story?
brand new.
you've never heard of this. You've never heard of Operation High Jump, bro.
I feel like I've heard of that, but I haven't. Not in this context.
This sounds
Let me see
amazing.
if I
Please
look
keep
up that
going.
way.
And
So,
this is where missing 411 come from.
The missing information? What missing information?
No, the missing 411.
What do you mean?
Which is all these people have mysteriously disappeared in force. And they don't know
you're not
how.
talking missing 411 like information.
No,
So missing 411 is the number of people that have been abducted?
Yeah, it's all really weird because they all have a lot of similar characteristics. German born, like German background, highly intelligent. And I don't know how weird you want to get, bro.
I want to get weird.
Okay, bro. They think this might be some time traveling Nazi shit, bro. It's true, dude. That's what they believe, and they made
Who
it.
is they? These they folk.
Who?
When you say they believe, who are these they? Are they united on the
No, the whole different. There's a lot of warring
factions.
clans, bro. There's a lot of warring clans, dude.
But
how deep do you want to go?
What is interesting is how advanced the engineering of the Germans was. You know, it's really interesting. When you think about car manufacturers like Audi and Volkswagen, Mercedes, it's all out of BMW. Didn't BMW make engines for Nazi fighter pilots? I think that's what they first started off doing.
They all did, bro.
But
I mean,
I think that's what BMW did, right?
yeah, 100%. And then we were
And Audi made Hitler a car.
Yeah,
Hitler had a race car.
that was never part of their marketing plan, though.
Yeah,
that would have been a crazy campaign.
What does it say there?
So 1939, BMW 801D
Piston radial aircraft engine, and national origin is Germany. So
World War II planes.
in that year, they made World War II planes. They made engines for World War II planes. This is wild, man.
I mean, IBM was making stuff for these camps too, dude. It's crazy.
IBM?
Yeah, like
They had
We've
computers?
talked about that before.
yeah,
Right. What was that?
There's a book.
What did they do?
They were it was the precursor to actual computers. It was like a filing system to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, I was where and what into these,
Oh, that's right. I'm remembering this.
and then oh yeah, man, it gets super
And so
weird.
that,
but the
it
place,
wasn't called IBM, right? What's something else?
I
think it was IBM.
book. Yeah, the book is called IBM and the Holocaust: A Strategic Alliance Between Nazi
I
Germany.
mean, you
and
ain't
Mexico's
fucking around with
Powerful
that title,
Corporation.
huh?
That title is rough.
Like,
If you're IBM,
straight
you
to
got
the
to be like,
point.
fuck, did we do that? Did we really do this?
I don't
The
remember
strategic alliance between Nazi Germany and America's most powerful corporation expanded. Interesting.
So the area of Antarctica they went to was New Schwabenland.
New Schwabenland. Do you think that's why he dressed with the space?
100%.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun. So they're all in contact with the aliens.
Well, dude, I mean, it gets into. See, a lot of people think this is about power and money.
What do you think it's about?
It's a spiritual war, dude. These people got all the money and all the power. They got more than they could ever want.
I think they want complete control.
Reality, not just complete control, but lowering your vibration and jacking your loosh. Your spirit energy.
You think they're doing that consciously, or do you think they're doing it like they're chasing the economics, and along the way it actually becomes a spiritual battle? Because everything is a spiritual battle.
I think it's done purposely. I think
They're evil.
I think they're at low. There's low frequency stuff going on, and they've made deals with people and things, and that's why I think's going on.
Very ambiguous, but I understand where you're with it.
Okay, I mean, if you want me, I just don't want to get too weird too fast, bro. But
Too fast?
I'm like,
We just opened up.
I 100% believe this is a spiritual war, and that these people are working with dark entities, and that's what this is all about.
Let's imagine if there was like an alien race that came here from another planet and gave just a random group of people technology.
Yeah.
Gave them an understanding of things and how to do things. How much of a record do you think they would keep of that? Would be something that people would want to talk about?
Yeah, but that's the beauty of the internet, that we're now able to do that. We could never do that before.
So you think that's what this story is about? The story is about they went there and they met with aliens and the aliens gave them information?
Hitler was really into the occult.
Yeah, I know,
like he would
was.
send people all over the place.
No, he had
a lot of bad ideas. But see, the occult has a negative connotation to it. Not everything involved with the occult is negative. What the occult really means is secret.
Secret.
So there's not as much
That's what that
around.
means?
Yeah, it's basically it means like it's hidden.
I always associate it with people that believe in silly shit. When someone starts talking about the occult, I'm always like, how do you feel about ghosts? You know, how do you feel about, like, when people start talking about, like, dark magic, I'm like, for real? You sure?
I believe in that there's some energy manipulation, but
I don't disbelieve.
Yeah.
I don't disbelieve.
Like, I don't know what's going on. I just kind of read stuff, and I'm like, how does this fit into the puzzle, right? How does this fit into the jigsaw of life? And you start looking around, and you just start going, okay, man, this is interesting. That is interesting. This starts to make sense.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
You came on my radar when you were discussing Oumuamua. Is that
Yes,
what I
that's
said?
it.
Oumuamua, which is an object that we detected in space that you believe could possibly have been extraterrestrial in origin, meaning from some sort of a civilization.
Right.
Yeah. Why did you? Please explain to people what Oumuamua is, why it's so extraordinary, and why you think it's possible that it came from some other intelligent civilization.
Right. So I'm a scientist, and I basically follow the evidence, just like Sherlock Holmes, trying to find solutions. It's a detective story. You have some anomalies, some things that don't quite match what you expected, and you're trying to find an explanation. And the thing about Oumuamua is that it was discovered on October 19th, 2017, a little more than 3 years ago. And it was the very first object that visited our vicinity in the solar system from outside the solar system. It moved too fast to be bound to the sun. Very first object that we have found coming to us from interstellar space, from other places. And at first, astronomers said, oh yeah, it's probably just like the objects we had in our solar system, all the rocks that we have seen before. We've seen comets and asteroids. So a comet is a rock that is covered with ice, water ice. So when it gets close to the sun, the surface gets warmed up and the ice turns into vapor, gas. And you see this beautiful cometary tail behind it. That's what a comet is. An asteroid is just rock without much ice on it. Actually, the first person to explain what comets are was at Harvard, the university that I am affiliated with. And the story goes that, I mean, it was Fred Whipple, that he went to Harvard Square and saw all the slush during a winter day, you know, and came up with the idea that it's just icy rock or icy rocks or, you know, rocky ice. And that's what a comet is. And the comets come to us from the periphery of the solar system. And, you know, astronomers said, okay, other stars may have them as well. And, you know, since they are loosely bound, if they are in the periphery, they can be easily ripped apart from their host star. And some of them will fly in our direction. We will see them. So they said, Oumuamua is probably a comet. The only problem is there wasn't any cometary tail. So you look for a duck, but it doesn't look like a duck, you know. So then the question is, what is it? And so people said, okay, it's just a rock without any ice on it. Then the problem was that it exhibited an extra push away from the sun. And usually you get it from the rocket effect. That when you make the cometary tail, it pushes the object in the opposite direction, just like a jet plane. A jet plane works by throwing gas out, and that's pushing you forward. So a comet has an extra push when it evaporates. But there was no cometary tail, so why did it show an extra push? That was the key question in my mind, at which point I started thinking, maybe it's not a comet and not an asteroid, something else, you know. And the other strange thing about it, it changes its brightness by a factor of 10 or more. And the brightness of the object, the light that we see, is simply reflected sunlight. So just think about it. Think about a piece of paper, razor-thin piece of paper, tumbling in the wind, and changing the area that we can see, the projected area of that piece of paper, by a factor of 10 as we look at it. That's exactly what we inferred from this object spinning around every 8 hours, but changing its brightness by a factor of 10, meaning that the area projected on the sky that we see, that reflects sunlight, changed by a factor of 10. So that means it has an extreme geometry. Most likely flat, if you try to interpret the light that it reflected over as it was tumbling around. And so a flat object, about the size of a football field, that has an extra push. If it were a comet, it needed to lose about 1/10 of its weight. So a lot of evaporation. You can't just say, oh, it's a little bit of evaporation, and therefore that's why we don't see it. It should have lost 1/10 of its weight. You know, if we go on a diet and lose 1/10 of our weight, that's a big chunk of mass, right? So this object didn't lose that because we didn't see it. And the Spitzer Space Telescope looked very deeply behind it to see if there are any traces of dust or gas. Didn't see anything. So then, you know, just like Sherlock Holmes, I was trying to think together with a postdoc of mine, Shmuel Bialy, what could explain it? And the only thing that came to mind is reflecting sunlight. So the object itself is being pushed by the sunlight reflecting off its surface. And, you know, that would agree with everything we know about the object. But in order for it to work, the object needs to be very thin, like a sail. You know, the sail on a boat. So a sail is pushed by a wind. But you can also push an object, a thin object, by light. And that is called the light sail. And we're actually using this technology now, developing it for space exploration. The big advantage is you don't need to carry the fuel with the spacecraft. You just reflect light off it, and it's being pushed.
There's a science movie that did something like that. I think it was called Sunlight.
Quite possible. I should mention an anecdote. In September, just a few months ago, in September 2020, there was another object that showed an extra push, no cometary tail. And then astronomers gave it a name 2020 SO, okay, September 2020. And then they extrapolated back in time and found that it came from Earth, actually. And then they looked at the history books and saw that indeed there was a rocket booster from a lunar lander that was kicked into space, and this is the object. Now, why did it show this push? Because it's a hollow, it's a very thin structure. So here is an example where we can tell it's artificial, and we know that we made it. But Oumuamua could not have been made by us because it was passing near us just for a few months, very quickly, faster than any rocket that we can launch. That's why we couldn't really chase it when it was receding away from us. And it came from outside the solar system. So, I just do 1 + 1 = 2. I say, okay, it looks very peculiar. Maybe it belongs to another civilization. I just put it in a scientific paper. I didn't think, we didn't have any press release. Then it went viral. The public got extremely interested. And the thing that really surprised me is that my colleagues were pushing back. They were very upset that this possibility was even mentioned. We had a seminar, a lecture about this object at Harvard. And a colleague of mine, after the lecture, said, "This object is really weird. I wish it never existed." To me, that I was really appalled by this. How can you say something like that? You should be happy about whatever nature gives you. You learn something new. If something doesn't look right, it actually teaches us. Oh, it's a learning experience. We learn that we have to revise the way we think about reality. That's a good thing. That's not a bad. You shouldn't always be in your comfort zone and think that the future will be the same as the past. So I actually see it as a blessing,
I imagine why anybody would be upset that it exists. Like, I wish it didn't exist. That's kind of hilarious.
Because it takes away from your comfort zone,
I know, but if you're studying the heavens, you're studying the cosmos, what is the ultimate thing that you could find? Another civilization or a piece of something from another civilization?
That's exactly my point. But if you go back in time, let me give you two examples. Galileo Galilei said, "I think the earth moves around the sun." But at the time, philosophers knew for sure that the sun moves around the earth. You see it moving in the sky. It was consistent with their religious beliefs, everything. So they said, "We don't want to look through your telescope to change our view. We will put you in house arrest." Now, what did they achieve by that? And by the way, I'm in house arrest, but it's because of the pandemic, not because. So what did they achieve by that? They maintained their ignorance, and the earth continued to move around the sun. Reality is the one thing that never goes away, irrespective of whether you ignore it. You can ignore it. Now, there is another example. There is a student at Harvard, that as a result of my book on this subject that is about to come out in a week or so, she was inspired to do her PhD on the theme of my book. So she invited me to a thesis exam just a couple of months ago, and one of the examiners, a professor, asked her, "Do you know why Giordano Bruno, an Italian guy, was burnt at the stake?" And she said, "Well, he was an obnoxious guy. He irritated a lot of people," which is true. He was an obnoxious. But the professor corrected her and said, "No. It was because he said that other stars are just like the sun. There are stars like the sun, and they have planets like the Earth around them, and there may be life on those planets." And that was offensive to the church, because if there is life there and it had sinned, then Christ should have visited those planets to save them, to save the life forms. And, you need copies of Christ to visit those planets. And that was unacceptable. So they burned the guy.
Burned him alive.
So you see that, throughout history, people are not really open-minded about the heavens, as you said.
Catch new episodes of The Joe Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of The Joe Rogan Experience.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
But I mean, again, how do these systems really work? So this is my kind of conspiracy detection kit. The grander the conspiracy theory, the less likely it is to be true. Like say Volkswagen cheating the emission standards in Europe. That's a very specific conspiracy theory. Turned out to be true. They really did do that, and for obvious reasons, profit motive, right? But so if you scale up from that, they're trying to control the entire European economy or something like. Well, no, that's too big. That's
just trying to make money.
They're just trying to make money, right? So, the more people that have to be involved, the more elements that have to come. People are incompetent. People can't keep their mouth shut.
For the most part.
For the most part, yes. Now, to be fair to the other side, if you read about the development of the U-2 spy plane and the AR-71 Blackbird, this was done in Burbank, where you used to live. And that's right in the heart of L.A. How did they do this for all those years and nobody knew about it, right?
Well, they're acting on the interests of the government. They were trying to be patriots. They kept their mouth shut because they were trying to win a war against the evil others.
Right. So, again, like with the recent UAP sightings, what I want, my initial response is the SR-71 Blackbird was, before it was declassified, there were commercial pilots going, oh my God, there's something going 3,000 miles an hour, 50,000 feet above me at 30,000 feet. This is impossible. We don't have anything like that. Well, actually, we did have something like that. Yeah. So I suspect that
that's what you think
in a decade or two, we're going to find out, we had these incredible drones that could fly at these speeds.
I tend to lean towards that as well sometimes. I go back and forth with it. I had Ryan Graves on recently.
I saw that.
It was a fascinating conversation because the way he was describing things with no visible means of propulsion, no technology that we currently know is available could act in the way those things were acting. I wonder if that is what it is, if they have some sort of very advanced drones. And the fact that they seem to be transmedium, they seem to be able to enter into the ocean and then leave the ocean. I wonder if that's something that we have, because these things, they're, one of the ones that he described is like a translucent circle with a black sphere inside of it. Right. And that when they updated their radar systems in 2014, they started seeing them all over the place on their systems. And that these people spotted them visually, and that they were behaving in a way like at 130 mile an hour winds were completely stationary. I wonder if those are super advanced drones.
Yeah, another problem with these is that they're very grainy, blurry. You can't quite make out what's going on. Like the one that it looks like it goes in the ocean, comes back out. It's not clear that it goes in the ocean because the horizon in the ocean is so blurry, right? So I'm a member of this Galileo project at Harvard, run by Avi Loeb, the head of the astronomy department.
I had Avi on.
Yep, I know. Yeah. And he's raising money to put cameras, high resolution cameras, all over the world, particularly in the places where people like Graves say when Graves told you, we saw these things every day, it's like every day.
Yeah.
There surely must be high-resolution photos of these things.
But those jets are not designed to take high-resolution video. They're designed to fight against enemy jets.
Right.
That's what they're designed for. They're designed to recognize these enemy combatants and engage with them in the most effective way possible. That's not with high-resolution digital video.
Right. Well, that would be the solution. We just need better data. Right.
Well, I wonder if they want better data. Now, let's assume.
We do.
The government, but listen, the federal government. Imagine they are running top secret programs using advanced drones, and a technology that we're not currently aware of, right? And that the United States government has these. They wouldn't want people taking videos of these things. Why would they?
Right, but one has one of these in their pocket.
But you don't get digital video of something that's 7 miles away moving at the speed of sound.
Well,
you're not going to get digital video.
That's what we want a Galileo project.
And according to Christopher Mellon, a guy who did work for the Defense Department, he said there are top secret videos and photographs that he's seen or that he's aware of that are pretty spectacular that they don't understand.
Right. Heard him say that. It's like, okay, then let's see them. Well,
but why would they release that? This is like if they, just like the Blackbird, just like the stealth bomber, many of the other projects that they have that were top secret before they became public, why would they release all that information?
Probably wouldn't. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder what that stuff is. And the fact that it happens so often in that very specific area, Who knows?
Another thing about with the UAPs is in the history of technology, no nation gets very far ahead of any other nation.
Right.
They either back engineer it or copy it or steal the secrets and so on. It's not likely we would have anything that the Russians and Chinese wouldn't be pretty close to having also. Just think of just the development of jets.
Or the nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb. The Russians had, so 1945 was Hiroshima, and 1949 the Russians, they stole our secrets, right? So this idea that, these are super advanced drones that we have and the Russians and Chinese don't have, it's not likely they would not know the technology that we know, the physics, the aerodynamics, and the engineering and all that, because they read the same journals. They do the same research we do.
So what do you...
Well, I think it's probably multiple things. I think some of them might be drones that just really high-tech drones. Some of them are just blurry videos that are... I think the one of the sphere inside the cube, or cube
inside the sphere,
is probably a balloon.
A balloon,
yes.
A balloon that stands stationary at 130 mile an hour winds.
Appears to stand stationary.
Appears with sophisticated tracking devices that these military jets have.
I know these are anomalies. Yeah, so we just need better data.
Why would you think?
What else would it be? Okay, it might be, it might be a drone. It's certainly, probably not an alien spacecraft, and so on.
Certainly, probably not. Why do you say that?
This is kind of gets into the argument of the SETI program.
Yeah.
There's so much empty space out there. The chances of them finding us are pretty slim. I
really?
separate.
But we have planets all the time.
Yeah, but
we are
telescopes, not visiting.
Telescopes and satellites
right.
and all sorts of things that we send into space. But we find planets all the time that are in the Goldilocks zone, and we have very relatively unsophisticated in terms of like what we'd expect from something that's capable of intergalactic travel. Relatively simple technology in comparison to what we would think if you took what we have today and you increased our capabilities, 1,000 years from now. You could imagine that it would be quite easy for someone to at least send a drone from another planet to visit Earth and observe.
This Fermi paradox.
Yes.
Yeah, that you know of. And where are they? Well, of course, most scientists like him don't think they're here. So I separate two questions. Most scientists.
Michikaku thinks they're here.
He's been a little fuzzy about that. He's not totally committed to that.
He's totally committed. He was here. So? He was here, and he talked about it on the podcast. He said for the longest time he was a skeptic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, let's kind of come down on that side a little bit.
But why be firm on that? When you think about the fact that there's hundreds of billions of galaxies in the known universe.
Yes. Let's separate two questions. Are they out there? Have they come here? Are they out there? Almost certainly.
Right.
I would say 99.9% they're out there.
I would agree with you.
100 billion stars in our galaxy, 100 billion to a trillion galaxies. Just do the numbers.
Yeah.
No matter how improbable it is, you get from bacteria to big brains and civilization, it's going to happen.
Right.
But have they come here? Okay, so how good is the evidence for that? Not very. It's pretty thin, right? It's anecdotal. It's human eyewitnesses. It's blurry videos, grainy photos. If they were here, damn it. Where's pick up the widget on the dashboard and bring it back here.
But just looking at what we know that these fighter pilots have witnessed, the data that they've acquired, when they're looking at something like Commander David Fravor, who, when they were off the coast of the Nimitz, when they tracked that thing that went from above 60,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet above sea level in less than a second. What's that?
I don't know.
What is that thing that they have visual contact by multiple sources, and they tracked it, and they have video of this thing moving off at insane rates of speed? What's that?
Yeah. This is the problem with anomalies. No theory explains everything, right?
But if there was any evidence that pointed to something that operated in a way that we can't comprehend any of the known technologies being able to reproduce, that's one of them.
But no technologies come out of a vacuum like that. They always build on previous technologies.
Right, but if you're talking about something on the planet,
well, okay,
or something from another civilization that we're not aware of that's on Earth, maybe that lives in the water, we don't know. We don't know. And when you're seeing these things, when you're talking about people that are the best fighter pilots that we have available, that are operating with the most sophisticated fighter jets, with tracking systems that are constantly being updated, and then when they update them, they start picking up these things, like Ryan Graves discussed on the podcast. Why would you think that those are not possibly something from somewhere else?
It depends how you want to pose the problem. So here's how I think about it. So I take Leslie Kean's a book on UFOs and pilots and generals go on the record and so on. In that book, she says 90 to 95% of all sightings have perfectly normal explanations.
I would probably agree that's true.
So the question is, what do we do with that other 5% of anomalies? Okay, no theory explains everything. There's always going to be anomalies in every scientific theory. What do you do with it? Nothing. You assign it to a graduate student to figure it out, or that's future research. Or, rather than going to a grand theory of visitation by aliens, or the Russians or Chinese have these super advanced technologies that we don't have, or we have them and they don't have. I mean, again, if we had this technology, surely the Russians have something pretty close to that. There's nothing from the videos in Ukraine of any Russian drones that act anything like these UAPs. Surely they would use this technology if they had it.
Well, we're assuming that those UAPs are military in nature and not something that they use to observe things.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, why would we assume that these things, if they're capable of behaving in this way and they're just some sort of a device that can travel at insane rates of speed, why would we assume that those things can launch missiles or act in a military capacity?
Right.
There are UAP sightings over Ukraine.
Yeah. So Avi did a nice paper on that, showing that these were artillery shells and not what the other people said they thought it was, that it was like a drone or a plane or something weird like that. He showed that if it was what they thought it was, it would have had a much bigger impact going through the atmosphere at that speed and burning up. But it didn't, so these are artillery shells. Anyway, he did a nice paper on that.
Interesting.
So,
but about these things that supposedly move far faster than the speed of sound without the sonic boom.
Yeah, how possible?
How is that possible?
That's right. It's not.
That's where it gets weird.
That's where it gets right.
But
so,
is it
really
question
moving?
Is it ours?
Is it really at that speed, or is it a misperception of the video, a miscalculation? Scientists make miscalculations of these sorts of things all the time.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was posed to David Fravor, and he said they have multiple sources of data. It's not just like one system that's monitoring these things. It's multiple systems.
Yeah. No, I follow these guys. I agree. They are incredibly credible, right? And they have good arguments. What do you do with the anomalies?
I think you're an anti-conspiracy theorist. That's it.
No, I'm a skeptic, Joe. I
know you are.
I'm just
the
a skeptic.
editor. What's your position in Skeptic Magazine?
I'm the editor-in-chief, publisher of Skeptic Magazine. That is my day job.
Yeah.
But it isn't that I don't believe things. I mean, I believe the theory of evolution. I think the Big Bang Theory happened when people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and my quantum physics friends tell me quantum physics is true. This is how we know it. To me, it's weird, spooky. I don't really understand it, but okay. We have tons of evidence.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Doing my first documentary back in 1997, when I was just naive enough to think I can get an interview with Steven Spielberg. We had a mutual friend involved, this woman, Janet. And she gets back to me and she's like, yeah, so Spielberg's definitely not going to meet with you, but he knows you're working on this UFO documentary. He thinks you should look into this landing case that happened in Africa at the school. And I said to myself at the time, and remind you guys that I was making a film on UFOs, and I dismissed it so quickly because I thought, there's no way that a mass landing with the sheer volume of eyewitness testimony at a school in broad daylight could happen and the whole world not know about it. So I just walked away from that story for about 10 years. 10 years later, I'm doing an event at the National Press Club with Leslie Kean, who was part of the article in the New York Times that came out in 2017. And she introduced me to this guy, Randall Nickerson. And she's like, oh, he's working on this landing case in Africa. Long story short, he's working on a film now. I think it's coming out next year, specifically on just that case. Dan Farah is producing it. And he said, I'm working on the case, and if you want to do something with me on it, a small piece, I could. So I got back into it. I licensed some of the footage that Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist that came and interviewed the school children on camera within a week of it happening. He unfortunately looked the wrong way in London, got run down by a car and died. So I contacted the Institute with the help of Randall Nickerson. I licensed the archival footage. We tracked down the witnesses today. We flew them in from all different corners of the world. brought them together. A lot of them were standing right next to each other. They came face to face, and one of the things I realized was that there were roughly 100 kids in the playground, broad daylight, aerial school, Rua, Zimbabwe, 1994, and they got within some of them within arm's length of these beings, and brought these witnesses together for the first time in 20 years. And a lot of them hadn't even told their significant others, just because they said they were tired of having to defend this. And I myself didn't believe it when I first heard about it back in 1997. And that segment of the film is the most, in my opinion, is the most powerful segment, because
It's very compelling.
you've got all these children saying what they saw on camera after it happened, and then you see them 20 years later, and then we go to Africa and we meet with the headmistress, or she was a teacher at the time. We meet with other witnesses. We go to the landing site. We talk to people at the school. That case is absolutely, and it was witnessed by lots of other people in and around the area for several days before it chose a school to land.
It's so telling because the children are all clearly, they're not actors. So as they're adults later, they're all talking about this moment, and it's like they had a religious experience together. Like they're all sharing it and talking about it, and you could tell it's like it's a deeply moving experience. If they were actors, they wouldn't have been able to do such a good job, because to convey the reality of that moment to them, to be able to have this interpretation of this event where they're all consistent in the story and they're all clearly still shook by this moment. It's really interesting, because if you had that scene in a movie, it would take like a really good actor to pull it off. And they'd probably need multiple takes. They'd probably want to get the best one. But those kids, the way they were talking about it and the way they were drawing it, you're like, wow, it really does seem like something happened to them.
I know how credible the testimony of the children is, because my partner, Rebecca, she's never had much of an interest in what I do, making documentaries on UFOs. I do other things as well, but when I was reviewing in the studio the archival interview of the children, she just dropped off a cup of coffee and she stopped and went, oh my God, those children are not lying. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because look, I ask your audience, don't take it from me. Just suspend judgment for a moment and imagine, hypothetically, if a UFO or several UFOs landed at a school in broad daylight in Rua, Zimbabwe, Africa, and interacted telepathically with nearly 100 school children. Not all of them had telepathic, but seen the incident. How significant of a story would you give that?
Well, not only that, the same message.
Yes.
What the telepathic message was that technology is a real problem.
Yes.
And there's things that people are doing with technology that are going to ruin the earth.
Yes.
And they were trying to relay this to children, which is very strange.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, maybe they just thought they were adults because they were the same size as the aliens. I mean, do you think they knew that they were children? Do you think they understood that it was a school? I mean, this is all speculation, right?
But no, I definitely had to ask myself, look, during the production of the film, Paula Harris actually turned me on to another landing case that happened in Australia in 1966 at a school. And this time there were roughly 300 witnesses that saw a disc land right outside a playground in Australia. And we went to Australia and investigated that case, went to the landing site, talked to eyewitness testimony, people that jumped the fence at the school playground and ran over to where this thing landed. And then we even interviewed a guy who snapped a photograph of a disc, a Polaroid, back in 1966, 2 days prior to the incident. So it's very probably that we have photographic evidence, we have eyewitness testimony, and for the first time we've got testimony from a science teacher. So why do these things land at schools? It seems like, and I'm just totally speculating here, but it seems like if I were going to do that, it seems like a pretty benign environment. We have testimony from military guys that we take a fairly hostile position towards things that penetrate sensitive military installations. And, so maybe, I'm just saying maybe
It's safe.
Maybe it's safe.
Maybe
but
it's
we
safe.
have to stop reacting to, intrusions by UFOs as a threat. I mean, that's the whole thing behind this new task force. And as much as I respect, the task force, my colleagues and I want to cooperate with them to the extent that we can bring information or resources to what they do. But there is more. This is not, should not be looked at specifically as a threat. I mean, with the phenomena that we observe, I mean, if they wanted to blow up those F-18s, they could do it, okay? Obviously, that's not what it's all about. And this idea of just labeling it all as a threat because it's unknown, that's a wrong idea. 90% of the information comes from the public, comes from children, and very, very little of it is made up. You know, in France, I mean, the data we get, you know, at the French Space Agency comes through channels where if people reported something that's found to be untrue, they are going to be called by the police.
Catch new episodes of The Joe Experience for free only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of The Joe Rogan Experience.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
You're an Applebee's guy.
I love Applebee's.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it about Applebee's?
I love the neighborhood, man. I love the
atmosphere.
I love the atmosphere. I love the drink they give you that comes with a gummy shark.
Which one's that?
I don't know what it's
It's
called.
like one of them signature cocktails?
Yeah, but it's so good. And they have a special Mountain Dew at Applebee's.
They do?
Yeah.
It's special?
Yeah, it's special. It's only in Applebee's.
What's the special?
You looking for another one of
No,
those?
I got this one right here.
It's like a raspberry flavor, I think. It's called like Space Punch. It's
Darkberry Bash.
Darkberry Bash. It's called, actually, NASA uses orange filters on Mars. Bash. I said, God, check that shit out. Look into it.
They might.
guys.
I think Amy's saying about color correction, though, is accurate.
Yeah, like
And
what I was just looking at the photos. They all come black and white, I think.
Right. I think the thing is that they're just getting data. They're getting data, and that data has to be interpreted into an image. And it's a lot more complicated than like you taking a picture on your iPhone and texting it to me, and I get it, and it's in full resolution.
Look up Mars.
iMessage.
Look up Mars copy and paste. Look up NASA copy and paste.
NASA copy.
Let's see if this works.
I'll add Mars.
Just add Mars for a buzzword.
What do you think about all this UFO disclosure shit? Are you paying attention to it?
Yes. Yeah. It's. I think it's pretty cool.
That's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
You know what's in like how little people seem to care.
Because we already know.
I know, but it's interesting. Like there wasn't like some moment where people like were like, "Holy shit, aliens are real." There
Pretty
wasn't a
soon
moment.
that's coming.
You think? I think it's because of this slow trickle. It's going to be. We just accept it.
Well, they try to normalize it with like War of the Worlds, which is like the War of the or Battle of Los Angeles and shit like that. That was a real fucking thing that happened. The pictures of Battle Los Angeles is crazy.
What happened exactly?
There's
Battle of Los Angeles?
There's this big object in the sky, and we're shooting machine guns at it. We
What year
got
was this?
spotlights. This is like in the 50s, maybe.
This photo.
Look at this shit.
Wow.
So we're putting fucking
they have
rounds on
these
this fucking thing.
Spotlights on this thing in the sky.
Look at the rounds.
Right, but what is it? What is it that they see? That's weird. That all you can see is spotlights.
1947. It says in the corner.
Boy, that looks like a fucking flying saucer.
Look at
That
in
one?
the look at in the middle
Yeah.
and look at but those things around it, those are fucking like Ma Deuce rounds. Like they're shooting at this fucking thing. They don't know what it is.
Well, you know that there's a famous story from the Soviet Union that these guys shot at a UFO and it turned them into stone.
Is it true?
I don't know. The CIA investigated it. Here, I'll send it to you, James, because I sent it to Jeremy Corbell. And that's what I asked him.
Fuck, I should have had links, Jamie. God damn it.
Well, this is the only link I have. It's
CIA UFO turned into STEM.
You can find that stuff.
You're definitely on
find
a
it?
watch list, Jamie.
Yeah, so there's literally like a CIA document about it. That these guys supposedly shot at a low-flying spaceship. Look at it. According to the KGB materials, a quite low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. It fell to Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonies by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply and then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles.
Poles.
Yeah, only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived.
No shit.
The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different from that of limestone. Oh my God.
It turned them into limestone.
Turned them literally into limestone.
And this is a CIA paperwork?
Well, this is, they're reading from a KGB file, right? So it's just... Go to the very bottom of that again, Jamie, the very bottom of that. It says one of the things that says, the CIA representative stated, if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. But the thing is, they're saying if the file corresponds to reality, that means there's a question.
If this is real, they're tough.
Yeah, they can fuck with you.
What year was this released?
I don't know.
Source is a newspaper.
1991?
93.
93.
So there's all these disclosures that are going on right now, and they're very, very fascinating because it's hard to know what's true and what's not true. But it's interesting that they're talking about it. But no one showed me anything yet. I'm waiting for them to show me things. I've seen some things already, like those videos that they took off the FLIR video and the Go Fast video, and these videos of these things where these fighter pilots are trying to track this thing, and it's like zipping across the sky, and they're like, what the fuck is that? I've seen a few of those. I've talked to 2 different fighter pilots that have had encounters.
And they're all in.
They're all in. I think there's a real thing going on. What that real thing is what's confusing to me. I think some of it has to be ours. I think some of it has to be like super advanced drone technology that we don't want everyone knowing about. And it's probably some black ops shit. But I don't think that's all of it. I think it's also possible that we've been visited. It just makes sense. It sounds so stupid. That's part of the problem of even talking about it, because it sounds dumb. Because there's no evidence. So you have to believe in something where there's no evidence of it other than like some blurry photographs. But then when you just think about the size of the universe itself and the fact that we exist here on this planet. We're real. We know we're real.
What if it's fucking a Martha or whatever, and they're from the center of the earth, and the holes in the poles or whatever, north and south, and that's where the holes are, and that's why Google Maps blocks it all out and all that shit.
Well, that would be a great theory before cell phones. Like that.
But it's not there. You still can't see it.
Yeah, but you can with satellites. And also flight patterns. Like the people that
copy and paste.
You know who doesn't think the world is flat? Pilots.
True. Or anyone who's been in an airplane.
They fly around, these motherfuckers. They know where they have to go. They know the flight patterns.
And you look at it.
Yeah, you look at it. Yeah. Also, by the way, everything's round. Go out in the fucking sky and look at Mars, look at Jupiter, get a telescope, look at all the stars. Notice how everything's round? Seems like there's a pattern going on. Yeah. Why would this be different?
This ass is round. I don't know. It's so weird, man. I don't know. And you're talking about the oh shit moment. I think we've been so like normalized to it, like ET, all this shit, growing up watching this shit, to where it's like, yeah, no shit. Everyone, no matter what the surveys say or anything, everyone thinks there's like something going on.
Everyone. Yeah.
There's
a few that still are very incredulous. Elon, believe it or not, is incredulous. He's famously said, if the aliens are real, they sure are subtle.
They're very subtle. Bigfoot's subtle, too. I mean, he's not an interdimensional being that could teleport at will.
He knows where cameras are.
He's an omniscient being.
He shuts down trail
Bigfoot
cams.
is just Jesus Christ, full beard all over.
He's just Jesus. Yeah, that's what he is.
Y'all seen the woods,
He's
Jesus.
a mythical creature that's looking out for humanity, our brothers and sisters. They need our help.
He's a benevolent, kind being.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So you were saying that you're on the fence, off the fence about Grush.
The story I was hearing, it's a lot. I'm going to skip a lot of it, but what I was reading and / what they were saying is that one possibility that could be going on is there is I think we're taking in some of Graham Hancock stuff too. If people were around on Earth 500,000 years ago, in some way, there was some split and a second set of humans continued on, and we're like in this interdimension space where they're both happening simultaneously, and that's where like if
he was saying this?
No. This is from I'm gathering this all from like that video. I'm adding in some of Graham Hancock stuff too because this kid also interviewed him, Jesse Michaels, on his podcast,
Okay.
and they're talking about some of the same stuff, but. Something they said in the Grush interview on his podcast was that an idea would be that these people exist on like a split timeline from us. Like we had cataclysms and died and repopulated and whatnot. Now we've ended in this place in 2023 with combustion engines and we're flying around. These people would have been in a different anti-gravity. Who knows what they figured out?
And they went somewhere else?
They're not even saying that. This is where like they're not going to talk. They haven't talked about that, but I think what they're saying or getting at maybe is that they're here, and that's why the nuclear thing is so important to them. They're on the same planet as us, and if we blow up the planet, it goes away from them.
So they're
too.
here. We just don't know where they are.
And that's where the interdimension thing comes in. That's what I'm gathering out of what I've
How
heard.
high were you when you came up with this theory?
It's not. I don't think I'm saying it's my theory. This is what they're sort of saying.
understand.
And Grush is sort of like. That's an interesting thing you're saying. He's not confirming it with them or anything. It was. It's a lot to take in. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah, it's all a lot to take in. David Grush is that UFO whistleblower that testified in front of Congress.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, man. The thing about it is, I believe he's telling the truth as far as what he's experienced and the documents that he uncovered and the people that he talked to. But how do you know whether or not they're just using him as a useful idiot to just get out some silly story because they're covering up for the fact that there's some very advanced drone system that the United States government has they're trying to keep under wraps?
Right.
It might.
No.
I think it's probably both things. Well, here's the thing. You're out in the woods all the time. You ever see
No.
Bigfoot?
No.
Talk to a hunter that's seen a UFO?
No.
Ever talk to a hunter that's seen Bigfoot?
I talked to
Really?
guys down at San Carlos, the Apache Reservation.
Yeah.
They said they've seen stuff.
Okay. Were they on peyote? Those Indians like to get down.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't. And it's been
Did they
like
just-
multiple times,
What stuff?
like square, like something square flying. Yeah.
Because that is the thing that they describe, right? It's a square with a sphere inside of it, like a black. No, the opposite.
Yeah.
A sphere with a black square
Yeah,
inside
like
of it.
a force
Yeah.
field or
I
something.
was fucked up.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody other than that. That's the first story I've heard from somebody who I have talked to.
That kind of makes sense. Because
Yeah.
that thing they do spot. That's a common one. Some flying square inside a sphere, like a translucent sphere. And that's like legitimate pilots have seen that. That's a weird one.
Right.
Because that my theory, and this is totally unfounded without any research whatsoever. It's just
Those are the
sit
best
down.
kind.
My favorite kind of theories. My theory is that they have this ability to make something move in this insane way with gravity, but they can't put a body in it and they can't put weapons in it. They can't. It's just an object that they can get to move at insane rates of speed. That's what I think. I think the military applications of this thing have yet to be figured out. But I think they do have something that can do things that we have no knowledge of. But the United States government is probably have in their possession something that was either back engineered from something from somewhere else, or something that they developed in a completely top secret environment with the top research scientists, probably during the wars, during World War II and Vietnam, and in Iraq and Afghanistan. You think about the amount of money that gets funneled through the government, and that they don't. I mean, didn't the Pentagon just for the 6th year in a row fail their audit? Imagine if you failed your audit 6 years in a row. Boy, they'd crawl up your ass with a fucking microscope.
Yeah.
I think, is that what it was?
They've ever passed it? But yeah, that is correct. It does say failed 6th audit with number passing grade.
So there's a lot of money flowing around, is my point.
Yeah.
And who knows how much of that money is going to these secret programs that we don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And if they did that, and they did have the top scientists, and if I was the fucking president, and I was the chief of staff, and I was running the Pentagon, I would want the best scientists. So I'd recruit the best scientists, and I'd say, hey, this is national security. We're working on this project. It uses gravity propulsion. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, but you get to work on some cool shit.
Yeah, and you get paid a lot of money.
And you get to be a part of one of the most insane discoveries in human history. So this is what we're working on.
Yeah.
I think that's likely too. But then you got to go back to like the Foo Fighters from the 1940s and the crash at Roswell, and that you also have to be open to the possibility that, like, look, there's a lot of planets out there. A lot of planets out there. It's very possible that we're not alone.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So, what do you remember from that moment on?
When I regained consciousness, it wasn't real quick. It wasn't real woken right up. It was real slow. It was dim. My consciousness was kind of like in and out for a while. I didn't know where I was. The pain and the feeling that I was mortally wounded, something was so wrong inside. I felt like I was dying. And this is what really fueled the panic when I finally laid eyes on these creatures. Of course, all of the mental programming that we get from Hollywood that aliens are invading monsters, didn't help. But I instantly associated this feeling of dying with pain with them. So I was combative immediately.
Where were you?
I was lying on back on a raised table. There was a light above me. It was not real bright. It was not so bright that I couldn't, see the outline of the fixture. But
what did the fixture look like?
Kind of like that, only much larger. Just a soft glow. And in the movie, there's a little bit of striking on the part of the aliens against me. That didn't happen. I lashed out at them. The one closest to me, I felt really weak. I didn't have enough strength to do much. So when my arm contacted him, he just fell back very unexpectedly easy into the other one. And I rolled off the table in the other direction. And they came around the table, and the three of them were coming towards me. And I just grabbed something from behind me, an object off of the shelf there, and started swinging it at them.
What was the object?
It was just some large long cylinder or rod, glass, some clear material. I wasn't studying it. I was looking at them and swinging wildly, screaming threats. They stopped. And I was planning on attacking more fully, just making way past them. The only doorway I could see was on the other side of them.
And it looked like a doorway?
Yeah, it looked like a door. Just, I guess it's a pretty typical description nowadays. Very large eyes, hairless, two eyes, nose, mouth. I didn't see them speak or no change in the expressions. And to me, that in the face of all the screaming and the fear that I was projecting, their lack of reaction probably just added to my panic. But
did they think they were a living creature, or did they feel like they were a robot?
Well, without expression, I'll say that. But, I've had 45 years to think about that. In more recent years, I think, well, maybe if they're telepathic and it's developed enough to where they don't need to talk, they also don't need facial expression.
Right.
And so their ability to communicate with each other would be much richer and more complete than we have. And speech and frowns or smiles or whatever would become obsolete pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, there's a theory about where human beings are headed. If we continue to evolve, that we will one day reach this point where the biological limitations of our monkey bodies will slowly start to fade away, and we'll have different abilities to
well,
communicate.
why would we frown or smile if you can say much more?
And so their musculature, did they look like smooth, like they had no clear muscles?
They were pretty smooth, very light. When I hit the one, it fell back into the other one pretty easily, like he weighed hardly anything.
Like a little.
Yeah. That was the most terrifying experience of my life. But when I tell this story and try to relate to people, I'm trying to communicate what I experienced and how utterly, utterly traumatic that was, and how it was so devastating. I was, on the verge of catatonic for weeks after it happened. But I don't want to relate this story in order to inspire fear, because I've had enough time to think about it that I think that it was unwarranted, that my reaction was just due to my ignorance of the situation. The fact that I was returned at all is pretty significant,
Yeah.
The idea that these beings are just kidnapping people willy-nilly and doing terrible things to them, I don't subscribe to that theory. Now, I try to separate what I actually experienced from things that I've concluded just from thinking about it. But it seems to me that, they've been seen, observed, there have been sightings for all, before I was born.
Had you heard the Betty and Barney Hill story before you were abducted?
No, I probably had. But if I thought if they had some sort of sinister intentions, it'd be a done deal. They wouldn't be sneaking around, hiding, and I believe with that level of technology. Look at it this way: human beings, just virtually everything technological that we have is just a few hundred years old. Before that, the most technological thing we had was fire, and in just the last 50 years, the progress of our science has grown to far overshadow everything we had accomplished in thousands of years before that. So I'm thinking what astronomers tell us about these other star systems is that they could be hundreds of thousands, millions, or maybe billions of years older than us. So if we accomplished the kind of technology that we have in a few decades, what is possible with millions of years of development? I mean, we couldn't begin to recognize what they're capable of.
Right.
So I think it's presumptuous for people to say, oh, they could never do that.
It really is an interesting conundrum because we know what we can do and we know where we came from. We have a very clear history of technology when it comes to humans. And we also know that there are planets surrounding stars all throughout our galaxy and all throughout the universe. But we're still skeptical. It's so funny. And
Yeah,
so
it is.
But for a guy like you who's actually encountered it, even though you saw it, it had to not seem real.
Oh, yeah, in your sanity, for sure. I mean, it was like I was practically catatonic for days afterwards.
Catch new episodes of the Joe Experience for free, only on Spotify. Watch back catalog JRE videos on Spotify, including clips. Easily, seamlessly switch between video and audio experience. On Spotify, you can listen to the JRE in the background while using other apps and can download episodes to save on data cost, all for free. Spotify is absolutely free. You don't have to have a premium account to watch new JRE episodes. You just need to search for the JRE on your Spotify app. Go to Spotify now to get this full episode of the Joe Rogan Experience.